Two men. One belt. One legacy. One of them walked into the ring as the most feared heavyweight on the planet, and one of them walked out broken. What happened inside that ring between Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk was not just a boxing match. It was a war that nobody saw coming, a night that rewrote history, and a story so wild, so brutal, so emotionally devastating that even the fighters themselves couldn't believe it was real. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never look at heavyweight boxing the same way again. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you watched a heavyweight championship fight and genuinely had no idea who was going to win, round by round, punch by punch, breath by breath? When was the last time two men stood across from each other in a boxing ring and both of them deserved to win? That's exactly what Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk gave the world. And the world was not ready. Tyson Fury, 6 feet 9 inches of chaos, confidence, and carnival energy. A man who was written off by doctors, by fans, by the entire sport, and came back to become the lineal heavyweight champion of the world. A man who got knocked down by Deontay Wilder and rose from the canvas like a comic book character who refuses to die. A man who calls himself the Gypsy King and backs it up every single time the lights get brightest. Fury doesn't just fight, he performs. He trash talks, he dances, he sings in the ring after wins, he pulls opponents into deep water and drowns them with his movement and his jab. Every analyst on the planet said Fury was too big, too crafty, too experienced for anyone alive. They said no man on earth could outbox the Gypsy King. Then there's Oleksandr Usyk. Quiet. Surgical. Relentless. A man who dominated the cruiserweight division so completely that he unified all 4 major titles and then walked into heavyweight, a division with men 40, 50, 60 pounds heavier than him, and started dismantling them one by one. He beat Anthony Joshua not once but twice. He made Joshua, a man with movie star looks and a body built in a laboratory, look slow, confused, and completely outclassed. Usyk doesn't just box, he calculates. He sees angles that other fighters don't even know exist. His footwork is from another dimension. His jab sets up combinations that land before your brain even registers the first punch. So when these two men, the two greatest heavyweights alive, finally agreed to fight each other for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, every boxing fan on earth stopped breathing. This was the fight the sport had been begging for. This was the fight that would settle the argument once and for all. Who is the greatest heavyweight of this generation? The Gypsy King or the Cat? The entertainer or the technician? The giant or the craftsman? What followed was one of the most dramatic, emotional, technically brilliant, and historically significant boxing events of the 21st century. And we are going to break down every single moment of it, the build-up, the fight, the controversy, the rematch, and everything that happened after. Sit down. This is going to take a while. To understand why this fight meant so much, you have to go back to the beginning. Not just the beginning of the rivalry, the beginning of both men's journeys. Because neither Tyson Fury nor Oleksandr Usyk was supposed to be here. Both of them, in completely different ways, defied every prediction, every obstacle, and every critic who ever doubted them. Tyson Fury was born on August 12, 1988, in Manchester, England, into a traveler family with boxing deep in its blood. His father, John Fury, was a bare-knuckle fighter, a tough, aggressive, sometimes volatile man who named his son Tyson after the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson. But here's the thing about Tyson Fury that most casual fans don't know. He was born 3 months premature. He weighed just 1 pound when he came into this world. Doctors didn't expect him to survive the night. His father, sitting in that hospital, made a promise that if his son lived, he would name him after the greatest fighter alive. The baby survived. And that baby grew up to become a heavyweight champion of the world. But the physical survival was only the beginning of Fury's battle. As he rose through the amateur and professional ranks in England, it became clear he had extraordinary natural talent, size, movement, jab, ring IQ. He turned professional in 2008 and began building a record, but the boxing world largely ignored him. He was seen as a journeyman prospect at best, a loud-mouthed entertainer at worst. The mainstream media didn't take him seriously. Even within boxing circles, there was always a question mark next to his name. Then on November 28, 2015, Tyson Fury did something that stunned the entire planet. He traveled to Dusseldorf, Germany, walked into Vladimir Klitschko's home territory, and outboxed one of the most dominant champions in heavyweight history over 12 rounds. Klitschko, who had held the heavyweight titles for years, who had destroyed challenger after challenger with clinical efficiency, had no answer for Fury's movement, his angles, his constant talking and mind games. Fury won by unanimous decision. He was the heavyweight champion of the world. And then everything fell apart. The depression hit him like a freight train. The alcohol. The cocaine. The weight gain, At his lowest, Fury ballooned to over 400 pounds. He publicly admitted to suicidal thoughts. He drove his car at high speed toward a bridge. He later said a voice in his head told him to stop, to go back, to fight another day. He stopped the car. He turned around. And eventually, through therapy, through faith, through family, through the brutal discipline of getting back into a gym when your body and mind are screaming at you to quit, Fury came back. He came back and signed with Bob Arum's Top Rank. He fought a pair of tune-up bouts. Then he fought Deontay Wilder in December 2018, a fight where he was knocked down in the 12th round so hard that his body went completely flat on the canvas, his arms spread wide, looking like a man who had simply decided to lie down and sleep. Everyone watching thought it was over. Fury was unconscious. The count began. And then, at the count of 9, Fury's eyes opened, his body gathered itself, and he stood up. The crowd in Staples Center erupted. Commentators lost their minds. It was one of the most dramatic moments in sports history. The fight ended in a controversial split draw. The rematch happened in February 2020. Fury destroyed Wilder in 7 rounds, knocking him down twice and forcing a corner stoppage. The Gypsy King was back. Bigger, smarter, sharper, and more dangerous than ever. A third fight with Wilder, also a Fury win by knockout. And then the world began asking the question, what about Usyk? Oleksandr Usyk's story begins in Simferopol, Crimea, in 1987. He grew up in Soviet Ukraine, training in a sporting culture where discipline was not optional. He discovered boxing young and dedicated himself to it with a seriousness that most fighters never develop. He was technically gifted from the start. His footwork, his combination punching, his ability to read opponents and adjust mid-fight were all evident early. He rose through the Ukrainian amateur system and represented his country at the highest level. At the 2012 London Olympics, Usyk won the gold medal in the heavyweight division. That Olympic gold launched his professional career, and he moved down to cruiserweight, the 200-pound division, where he would build a legacy that many consider the finest run in that division's history. He won the WBO cruiserweight title in 2016. Then the WBC. Then the IBF. Then the WBA. He became the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world, the first man in the four-belt era to hold all 4 major titles simultaneously in that division. He dominated every opponent he faced. He did it with style, with creativity, with a relentless pressure that broke fighters mentally before it broke them physically. When Usyk moved up to heavyweight, skeptics emerged immediately. He was too small, they said. He walked around at roughly 220 pounds, light even for a cruiserweight, never mind heavyweight. The men he would face at heavyweight outweighed him by 30, 40, sometimes 50 pounds. They were bigger, stronger, could hit harder. Usyk would get bullied, dominated, eventually stopped. That was the consensus. Anthony Joshua didn't get the memo. Nobody sent it to him. Because when Usyk fought Joshua in September 2021 at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London, before a crowd of 67,000 people who expected their British hero to dismantle the smaller Ukrainian challenger, Usyk gave Joshua a masterclass. He moved, he jabbed, he combined, he took Joshua's best shots and kept coming. By the later rounds, Joshua was visibly confused, hurt, and demoralized. Usyk won by unanimous decision. The rematch in August 2022 went the same way, another Usyk victory, this time even more dominant, a performance that silenced every remaining doubter. Oleksandr Usyk was now the WBA, IBF, and WBO heavyweight champion. Tyson Fury held the WBC belt. The stage was set for the undisputed championship fight the boxing world had been dreaming about. Negotiations for Fury versus Usyk took years. Multiple times the fight seemed close to happening and then collapsed. Other fights got in the way, promoter disagreements created complications, and both men had their own mandatory defenses to handle. But eventually, in early 2024, the deal was done. The fight was officially announced. Tyson Fury vs. Oleksandr Usyk for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. All 4 major belts on the line. For the first time since Lennox Lewis unified the division in 1999, 25 years earlier, one man would hold every title that mattered. The fight was scheduled for May 18, 2024, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The moment the announcement was made, the boxing world exploded. Social media went into overdrive. Every analyst, every former champion, every pundit with a microphone or a keyboard had an opinion. And the opinions were divided almost exactly down the middle, which almost never happens in boxing, where the hype usually favors one fighter heavily. But this time, the arguments on both sides were genuinely compelling. The Fury camp made their case clearly. Size. Fury was 6 inches taller and 30+ pounds heavier than Usyk. In heavyweight boxing, size has always mattered. Fury could jab Usyk all night from the outside, use his reach to keep Usyk at a distance, and if Usyk tried to come inside, Fury could lean on him, rough him up, wear him down. Fury had been in wars before, against Wilder, against Otto Wallin who cut him badly, against multiple opponents who tested him physically. Fury knew how to fight hurt. Fury knew how to fight dirty when necessary. Fury had the experience and the ring generalship to control the pace and the distance. The Usyk camp's counter-argument was equally strong. Usyk's footwork and angles would neutralize Fury's size advantage. A bigger man can only punch you if he can find you, and Usyk had a gift for not being findable. Usyk's jab was underrated. It was quick, sharp, and he threw it from angles that made it difficult to see coming. His combinations were elite level. And mentally Usyk was ice cold. He didn't get rattled. He didn't panic. He had fought in front of 67,000 hostile British fans and won. He had fought 2 months after his country was invaded by Russia and won. Nothing rattled Oleksandr Usyk. The press conferences between the two fighters were fascinating in a way that boxing press conferences rarely are. Fury was his usual theatrical self, loud, funny, provocative, filling the room with his presence. He called Usyk small, questioned whether he belonged at heavyweight, promised a knockout, did everything in his power to get inside Usyk's head. And Usyk, true to form, barely reacted. He smiled occasionally. He said a few quiet, confident things through his translator. He looked at Fury with the calm, steady gaze of a man who had already decided the outcome in his own mind and was simply waiting for the universe to catch up. The build-up also carried serious emotional weight because of the broader context. Usyk was Ukrainian. His country was at war. He had made no secret of the fact that he was fighting not just for himself or for boxing, but for Ukraine, for national pride, for a symbol of strength during an incredibly difficult time for his people. Many of his fellow Ukrainians were fighting and dying while he was training in a gym. He carried that weight openly and without shame. It gave his campaign a dimension that went far beyond sport. May 18, 2024. Kingdom Arena, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Capacity crowd. The whole boxing world watching. 2 undisputed legends of the heavyweight division walking toward each other under the lights. The opening bell rang and both fighters immediately established that this was going to be a chess match. Fury started by trying to establish his jab and his distance. He wanted to keep Usyk at the end of his long arms, make him work to get inside. Usyk, meanwhile, was moving constantly, circling, changing angles, refusing to walk in a straight line. He made himself a difficult target from the very first second. Rounds 1 and 2 were feeling out rounds, both men cautious, both men showing respect. Fury landed some good jabs. Usyk landed some sharp counters when Fury overcommit. Nothing decisive, but the picture was becoming clear. This was going to be close. In rounds 3 and 4, Usyk began to assert himself. His footwork was extraordinary. He was sliding to angles that made Fury turn and reset constantly. Every time Fury thought he had Usyk lined up for a big shot, Usyk moved and the shot missed or landed on the shoulder. Usyk's jab was finding a home, popping Fury's head back. And his body work was subtle but consistent, short left hooks to the body when he got inside, taking something from Fury's legs with each passing round. Round 5 was the round that changed the conversation. Usyk landed a sharp combination that rocked Fury, not a knockdown, but clearly a flash of trouble, Fury's legs momentarily unsteady. The arena buzzed. Fury's legendary chin and recovery ability saved him, and he grabbed and clinched his way through the remainder of the round. But the message was sent. Usyk could hurt Fury. Rounds 6 through 8 saw a constant back and forth. Fury was using his size more effectively, pressing Usyk against the ropes, trying to land to the body. using his weight to make every exchange physical and draining. Fury's corner felt they were doing enough to win these rounds. Usyk's corner felt differently. The judges were likely seeing something different from each other. Then came round 9, one of the most dramatic rounds in heavyweight championship history. Fury landed a massive right hand that dropped Usyk to the canvas. The crowd erupted. Usyk went down hard, his corner was screaming, the referee began the count. Usyk rose at the count of 8, took the mandatory 8 count, and the referee looked into his eyes. What happened next was something that only the truly great fighters can do. Usyk, having just been knocked down by one of the most physically powerful punchers in the world, immediately went on the attack. He didn't retreat. He didn't survive. He attacked. He backed Fury up, landed punches in combination, and actually had Fury in trouble before the round ended. It was one of the most astonishing displays of mental and physical toughness the heavyweight division had ever seen. Rounds 10 through 12 were brutal and beautiful simultaneously. Both men were exhausted. Both men were hurt. Both men were giving everything they had. Fury was trying to land the finishing blow he knew he needed to secure the victory on the scorecards. Usyk was trying to take the fight away from the judges entirely by finishing Fury. Neither succeeded completely. The final bell rang. The decision went to the scorecards. And after 12 rounds of absolute warfare, Oleksandr Usyk was awarded a split decision victory. He was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. The reaction was immediate and divided. Fury's supporters were furious. Many felt he had done enough, that the knockdown in round 9 should have swung the fight decisively in his favor, that the size and pressure he applied throughout the night were not fully rewarded on the cards. Fury himself was emotional in ways rarely seen from him, a man who had built his entire public persona on unshakable confidence visibly shaken by the defeat. Usyk's supporters, and neutral boxing fans worldwide, celebrated what they saw as a masterpiece performance. A man who came into heavyweight as an underdog against every opponent he had ever faced in the division, who was always the smaller man, the lighter man, the supposedly weaker man, had beaten the last, most dangerous test of all. Usyk had unified the cruiserweight division. He had twice beaten Anthony Joshua. And now he had beaten Tyson Fury. 3 men who were supposed to be too big for him. 3 men who outweighed him significantly. 3 men with massive punching power. 3 men who lost to Oleksandr Usyk. The post-fight press conference saw Usyk, exhausted and emotional, speak about Ukraine, about his faith, about what this victory meant beyond boxing. He had carried a nation on his back and delivered. The scenes of Ukrainians celebrating across the world, in Kiev, in cities across Europe, in boxing gyms and living rooms everywhere, were genuinely moving. For Fury, the defeat was the first of his professional career. He had entered that ring undefeated. He left it with a loss next to his name for the first time. The question that followed immediately was simple: what now? The rematch was agreed upon almost immediately. It was always going to happen. A fight of that magnitude, decided by split decision, with a knockdown on each side of the scorecard, a rematch was not just commercially inevitable, it was morally necessary for the sport. The rematch took place on December 21, 2024, once again in Riyadh. And if the first fight was a chess match, the rematch was a street fight with chess pieces. Both men came in with adjustments. Fury's team made changes to his corner, additions and tactical modifications designed to bring more aggression and better use of his physical advantages. Usyk had studied the first fight obsessively and prepared solutions for everything Fury had done well. The rematch was, if anything, even more dramatic than the first. Fury was bigger, heavier, more aggressive. He threw more punches. He used his size more effectively. There were moments where he genuinely seemed like he might score the knockout he was looking for. But Usyk's chin, his timing, his ability to survive and respond, all of it held firm. Usyk won the rematch as well. Again by decision. Again amid some controversy. But this time, the scorecards were less disputed. Usyk's work rate, his accuracy, his consistency over 12 rounds were decisive factors. Oleksandr Usyk had beaten Tyson Fury twice. He was unambiguously, undisputedly the greatest heavyweight on the planet. Let's talk about what these two fights actually mean for the history of heavyweight boxing. Because the heavyweight division has always been the glamour division, the one that produces the legends that transcend the sport. Ali, Frazier, Foreman, Holmes, Tyson, Holyfield, Lewis. These are not just boxing names. These are cultural figures. And now we can say with certainty that Fury and Usyk belong in that conversation. Tyson Fury, despite the 2 losses to Usyk, has a legacy that cannot be diminished. He is the man who came back from the edge of death, mental health crisis, addiction, extreme weight gain, and fought his way back to the top of the sport. He is the man who knocked down and ultimately stopped Deontay Wilder 3 times. He is the man who brought joy and entertainment and genuine emotion to a sport that sometimes takes itself too seriously. His story is one of the most remarkable in all of sports, not just boxing. And his performance against Usyk in the first fight, getting up from a knockdown and fighting back, reminded everyone why he will always be respected. Oleksandr Usyk is now in the conversation for the greatest heavyweight of his generation, and possibly greater than that. He unified cruiserweight. He unified heavyweight. He beat every major heavyweight challenge put in front of him. He did it as the smaller man every single time. He did it during a period of enormous personal and national trauma. He did it with a style that was technically brilliant and aesthetically beautiful. Future generations of boxers will study Usyk's footwork, his jab, his angles, and his mental approach to the sport for decades to come. The Fury-Usyk saga also did something important for boxing at a time when the sport desperately needed it. It made people care again. In an era of fragmented attention, of pay-per-view fatigue, of endless promotional politics that keep fights from happening, these 2 men actually made the fight the world wanted to see. Twice. And both times, they delivered at the highest level. The current landscape. Where do they go from here? As of 2025, the heavyweight division is navigating its post-Usyk Fury era. There are questions about whether Fury will fight again at the elite level, or whether the 2 losses to Usyk have changed his calculations about his future in the sport. Fury has always been unpredictable, capable of announcing retirement and then returning, capable of saying one thing publicly and doing another privately. Nobody, including probably Fury himself, knows exactly what comes next for the Gypsy King. Usyk faces the challenge that every dominant champion eventually faces. Who is the next credible challenger? The heavyweight division has depth in 2025. Daniel Dubois, Zhilei Zhang, Filip Hrgovic, and the ongoing question of what a fit and motivated Anthony Joshua can still do. Each of these represents a different kind of challenge for Usyk, and each fight would carry its own storyline and drama. There is also the possibility of a third Fury-Usyk fight, though the commercial appetite for that would depend heavily on how convincingly Usyk performs in his next defense, and whether Fury can rebuild his position with a significant win elsewhere. Boxing has never been shy about trilogy fights, and when the first 2 installments are as good as these were, the appetite for a third is understandable. When boxing historians look back at this decade of heavyweight boxing, the Fury-Usyk rivalry will be the centerpiece. Not because of the controversy or the knockdowns or the scorecards, but because of what both men represented, and what both men were willing to sacrifice. Fury represented resilience. The belief that no matter how dark things get, no matter how far you fall, you can rise again. His story is one that people who have never watched a boxing match in their lives can understand and be moved by. His career is a testament to the human spirit in its most dramatic, flawed, and ultimately triumphant form. Usyk represented precision. Dedication. The idea that talent combined with relentless work ethic and unshakable mental strength can overcome every physical disadvantage. His career is a masterclass in what boxing actually is, not just punching hard, but thinking clearly, moving intelligently, and maintaining composure when everything around you is chaos. 2 men. Completely different personalities. Completely different styles. Completely different stories. And yet both of them, in their own way, gave boxing exactly what it needed at exactly the right moment. That is the Fury Usyk story. And it is not over yet.